My name is Soleil, and we are joined today by Larry and CJ, which are our wonderful TAs. Larry and CJ, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, my name is Larry. People call me LJ in the community, and yeah, I have been in the LW3 community for 2 years now, and yeah, I'm one of the developer TAs, and excited to be a co-host of this presentation with Soleil.
All right, and CJ.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm CJ. I've been in the community for the past over 2 years, I think, and I'm also one of the developer TAs, and I'm excited to host this workshop with Soleil and Lara today.
Yeah, thank you guys for co-hosting this with me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Hackathon 101. What is a hackathon? A hackathon is essentially a hacking marathon where you engage in rapid and collaborative engineering. Hacking time varies anywhere from 24 hours to 2 weeks or even longer. For our hackathon specifically, it's about a little over 2 weeks. I think that's considered somewhat long, right, Larry and CJ?
Yeah, so I mean, you have some hackathons where it's just a weekend, maybe a couple of days, right? Um, there's some hackathons where it's a couple of weeks, and then there's really popular hackathons such as Chainlink, right? Such as Eve Global, that are usually maybe 20 days. Of course, depending on the length of the hackathon, you have to, act accordingly, right? So
Right. And we'll get into that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is why you should join a hackathon. And I think there are some things that are kind of overlooked. I mean, of course, we all know that there are, prizes to be won, but I think some experience is overlooked. So, you get some technical experience, team collaboration, working under pressure, being able to present and pitch your ideas and project. And joining a hackathon also enhances your portfolio. You gain new friendships that you can, take throughout your journey, and then also meet potential recruiters or come across job opportunities in the future. And of course, you earn hackathon prizes. So I want to ask Larry and CJ, who have experience in hackathons, like, what would you say you've gained by participating in them besides the hackathon prizes themselves?
Yeah, so I think when I went to my first hackathon, like we all usually learn as a solo developers and try to do everything by ourselves in the beginning, or even in the later stages, you working on your own for the most part. So one of the valuable experiences from the hackathons for me was to work with a team, brainstorm together, develop this some sort of like framework how we're gonna work around the problems, how we will get through setting responsibilities, and like in general having a deadline to work to, because like depending on the hackathon, like the project has to be submitted by a certain date. So like it's in the between the people in the team to figure out how are you going to approach different tasks, and how you're going to make sure everything is coming together in the end. So like this might sound simple when you never had this sort of experience, but when you actually join hackathons and you start working like this, you get a lot to learn from working in such way. So this was one of my big learning experiences from the hackathons, and obviously uh, learning like how to, like, if we're missing a piece, like who do we talk to, how do we get by this issue. That's also one of the things like you learn during the hackathons, because there is time pressure, so like you need to act quick on certain things to like make sure you can deliver by the end of the date, and obviously proceed with your submission afterwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think one of the things that can sometimes we kind of overlook is how to work with people, and everybody is different. So, it varies from team to team. Larry, what about you?
yeah, I agree with what CJ said, right? It's about team collaboration, and people taking on different tasks, right? You have to know how to navigate through all that. Um, Me, one of my problems as a person is that I like to do everything by myself, right? And I think me entering a hackathon with a team, it really showed me the power of working with others, right? I mean, it is possible to do everything on your own, but when you have a team that you trust, it makes things much more efficient. It alleviates a lot of workload on you. And yeah, and if you have a good team, um, it it teaches you how to collaborate with others, and it teaches you how to work outside of you just doing a project by yourself. You working with the team in the hackathon. It really truly helps your collaboration skills and yeah, how to trust others. How to navigate through people's time zones, things like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's super important because at the end of the day, you do end up working with a team in real life. So it's good to kind of get practice and learn how to deal with maybe different personalities or how to really come together to get a project together. And it's perfect that we're talking about teams because the next thing is going to be how to find a team. So we'll get into the hackathon tips right now. And the first one is finding a team. You're always welcome to join our hackathon solo, but we definitely recommend forming a team and assigning roles and responsibilities. And that way, like Larry said, you can share the workload and really increase your chances of success even more. Don't be shy. Introduce yourself and reach out to people on social media channels like Twitter, Discord, and LinkedIn. Specifically for our hackathon, go into our Discord and make sure you claim the S2 hacker role in the hackathon intro channel on our Discord. And make sure you introduce yourself, showcase your skills and experience. And something that may not always be talked about as well is making sure you guys are in alignment for what your goal for the hackathon is. Some people are here just to gain experience, and some are really determined to win all the prizes. CJ and Larry, I do want to ask, like, was there ever a situation where you guys got into a team and you guys weren't aligned? And how did you kind of deal with that?
yeah, I'm gonna go first on this. So, my first hackathon was fall Chainlink of 2021, and this is back when I only had maybe 5 months of coding experience, right? And I entered the hackathon. I just wanted experience. I just want to get my foot in the door. I wasn't really serious about um, winning money or getting bounty prizes or any of that. However, it was somebody because Chainlink, they have their own Discord. They have a place where you can team build or whatnot or look for teams, and it was somebody that saw me and they wanted to, you know, uh, team up with me. But I could tell that they were really trying to win something, but me, I wasn't. I wasn't really confident in my skills, and so and that was one hackathon that I just that made me stir away from hackathons for a while because it just wasn't a good experience. Both me and my teammates, our goals did not align, and it just wasn't a good experience for me. I just wanted to be there to learn, but he wanted to actually win something, and it didn't help as well that I was just a complete new to programming. I didn't know what I was doing, you know. So that's why it's very important to know who you're finding a teammate. It can be very hard, right? And you want to you know more. You want to know about who you're working with as much as you can because your teammates can make or break your hackathon experience. It can make or break whether or not you get something done. and you might be someone who's been coding for a few months, but you might not be able to uh, code. You might not be able to collaborate with someone that really wants to win and has been coding for maybe 8 years or something. So um, I mean, you can work with whoever you want, but maybe ideally try to work with somebody at your skill level, right? So there won't be more pressure on the person who doesn't have as much experience, right? Because I mean, it can be challenging to work in a more faster pace, and that is what hackathons do. But I mean, you don't want to work to the point where you just can't do anything. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I do think even if you are working with somebody that's maybe more advanced, I think the emphasis is on really, figuring out each other's strengths and working on those skills or, focuses that you can excel in. CJ, what about you? Did you have any experience with this?
I did have experience. It was also my first hackathon. It was kind of a little bit different to the experience Larry had, but it was end of 2022. There was a hackathon, and I was a few months into programming. I could do some things on my own. There was this hackathon, so like I was hearing everywhere, people are recommending to join hackathons, even like if we don't get prizes, just for the learning experience. So I kind of got excited about this. I said, okay, I want to give it a try. And basically, I was also searching for a team member somewhere in the Discord. I found few people. We didn't know each other, obviously. So it turned out later on, as we were trying to form the team and brainstorm like what we're gonna build, it turned out that everybody is in way different like time zones. We had somebody from India, we had people in the Central Europe, and we had people in Argentina. So it was kind of challenging for us to work together, but we decided to stick with it. And obviously, as the hackathon started, we started working on the project. Uh, then there was issues with how we worked, so we kind of didn't align completely with what we are going to build. I got the impression that the time zone was one big barrier. Then the second barrier was like not all of us were very advanced in what we want to build, so we had to compromise on the initial idea and what we're going to deliver. Because this was like weekend hackathon, so it was only 48 hours, and we kind of drifted away from the initial idea, and we came up with something just so we have the submission and the general experience of how this exact process for the hackathons and judging and everything else works. So it was a learning experience, and if I would have to do this again, I would do things differently. So like as long as we learn from it, I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I would say like both your examples, like you and Larry, I think one of the things that could have been, I guess, like worked on or maybe just done differently in the future would be finding a way to really communicate with each other. One is like clarifying the goal from the very beginning, and then two, maybe setting up a workspace for the team, just so because of the different time zones, they can kind of communicate like, hey, this is what I worked on. You can pick up from here, etc. I think that's part of like the learning experience with working with teams, especially from different parts of the world. But yeah, let's move on to the next tip, which is going to be about brainstorming. Um, and once you've formed your team, you need to make sure you go straight into brainstorming because it's something that will really help create a game plan for you and your team and figure out what and how you're going to execute. So, making sure you set aside enough time for brainstorming and that there's no building at this time. So you really just want to focus on getting all your ideas out, communicating your ideas, and then figuring out a plan forward to execute. So, Larry and CJ, I just want to ask, how much time do you think teams should set aside solely for brainstorming?
Okay, before I answer this, this hackathon is what, a week long?
Our hackathon is about like, I would say it's like 13 days altogether.
All right, so I know, so from experience, when I was, in the Eve Global and Chain Link Hackathon, those were about a month, right? 30 days. So it's going to be based on the time frame of the hackathon, right? So in those hackathons that I did, we took maybe a week to brainstorm our project, right? Because when you have more time, you're able to brainstorm a bigger project, right? But I would say for this hackathon, since it's what, 13 days, right? 12, 13 days, um, maybe take 2 days, at most 3 days, right? Um, because you, as a programmer, right, when you're doing projects, building projects, you know, you're going to be lost if you have no game plan, right? You're going to be lost if you're just building a project and you haven't structured out what exactly you're going to build. You need to you need to come up with the idea. You need to figure out the different components, the different features of whatever it is you're going to build. Like, is it going to have a nav bar? Is it going to have a section talking about the project, or a section where you can interact with what it is you're building? Things like that, right? You have to figure out what it is you need to prioritize on, or things like that, right? And so once you finish brainstorming in those couple of days, it needs to be nothing but nonstop coding, right? And you don't want to be in the situation where um, you're still coding, you're coding, but then now all of a sudden you want to change around the idea, and hackathons are very intense, can be very intense, and you don't want to just sit there trying to change the idea over and over again. So that's why it's very important to brainstorm. And yeah, for the time frame of this hackathon, particularly, I would say maybe a couple of days.
Yeah, sorry, Larry. It's 15 days, not 13, but yeah, I think a couple days is still a reasonable time to, just dedicate purely to brainstorming. CJ, did you have a different recommendation or?
I don't think I would be having much different recommendation. It's just that I would recommend brainstorming before the actual hackathon starts, because you cannot start writing your code, but you can prepare all the structure for what you will need. Obviously, you cannot plan everything, because you will come across things that you couldn't think of as you were planning everything out. So I think from my personal experience, I would like to outline some key points, like what are we going to implement, and then obviously work from this. So even if you are like 1 week into a hackathon, like you have something to look back at and say, okay, that's what we were thinking. That's what the idea initially was. So let's focus on like implementing what we initially planned. and and I think that's from my experience, because you can't plan for everything before you start coding.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good tip to start brainstorming maybe even before the hackathon starts, so that you have as much time set aside for coding and the presentation and everything else that comes later. So yeah, if you guys, I mean, if you're here, I'm assuming you've joined the hackathon. So make sure you start looking for team members and start brainstorming as soon as possible. Before we move on, I think there's a few questions. One was, what are some tips for solo hackers? If you guys want to answer that, and then we'll take the next question before we move on.
Okay, I'm just searching. Oh, I see the question. What are some tips for solo hackers? I would say we are gonna get into this, but just try not to do too much, right? Try to try to build something that you know you can manage based on your skill level, right? Try to build something that you know you can handle because there's only so much you can do in a certain amount of time being the only person hacking, being the only person that's building your project. If it's a really big um if it's a really big idea, you you'll find yourself spending hours and hours and hours and hours, right, trying to build this idea out, and that is very brutal. So I would say you build something that you can handle on your own, based on your skill level. That's what I was saying, and based on how much time you have. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one thing to definitely consider when you're working solo is the workload. So
Yes,
another,
one
yeah,
more thing I can add, just also as a part of plan for yourself the time where you're gonna create a presentation or a pitch for your project, because this is being overlooked sometimes. And like, if you put so much work into the project, just make sure you plan for this as well, so you can put your submission on time.
yeah, that makes sense. CJ, I know you already answered this question, but I'll just bring it up again and maybe you want to elaborate. Should we learn new framework or languages for the hackathon or focus on building something with our current skills?
I think this really depends on like what's the goal of your project is. I would say you can really do both, depending how much you know already. Like if you know already all the technology that you want to build your project with, happy days, easier for you. You definitely going to have easier time working on your project. But if there is something you missing, maybe one of your team members knows, so you can share some information with you, and like collaborate together. So I think this is also a good time, like to pick up a new skill during the hackathon if it's required for your project. I think I wouldn't do it for the sake of learning something during the hackathon. I would rather do it if this is required for the project or the implementation we are going with.
Awesome. Thanks for that, CJ. Okay, so let's move on to the next um, topic, which is assigning roles. So once you finalize your game plan from your brainstorm session, the next thing to do is really assign roles and responsibilities to each team member. So do this by figuring out each person's strengths first, then assign the responsibilities. I think this will help everybody kind of, figure out what they're doing and what they need to get done throughout the hacking time. And I also want to talk a little bit about roles that aren't necessarily dev related, because we all know that developers are essential to this, but I think a lot of people also turn away from hackathons if they're maybe a beginner or they're not necessarily a dev. But CJ and Larry, what type of non-dev roles have you found that may be like super beneficial to having in a team?
Um, the only two I can think off the top of my head, well, actually three. Um, One is I would say someone who is good at marketing or someone who is good at creating videos, right? It could be really beneficial to have someone that, um, because one thing I'll mention is that I'm not sure in terms of this hackathon, but there are hackathons where the judges will be non-technical, right? And they will not be able to interpret the code that you've written. But if you have someone that can create really good slides or really good diagrams, really good videos, right, that can really market that project to those non-technical people who are judging. So there's that. Another a role is UI design. That's somewhat technical, but for the most part, not. Maybe not. Like a Figma designer, someone who can create a UI design of like a front end page. And then the only other one I can think of is a project manager. So yeah, those only roles I can think of off the top of my head that would be considered non-technical.
So, like for the non-technical roles, as Larry mentioned, I think he made some very good points about the UI UX, the project management part, and presentation skills. So, project management is also often overlooked, and like if there is someone on the team who have a strong management skills and he knows how to like organize everything, that could be helpful for your team. And also the presentation part, because not everyone is a great speaker, not everyone is great at presenting, so it's always good someone who can speak about the project to non-technical people as well. So yeah, these are some good points. I don't think I have anything else to add on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as far as the person presenting, I didn't think of that. That's also a good skill. Um,
Yeah, something
yeah,
else to bear in
yeah,
mind, like when you're forming your teams, it's good to have people with different skills. Like you, it will be hard. You can imagine it would be hard to like work with 4 backenders on a team. Like everyone is strong at the backend, but nobody knows how to like make a nice UI, and maybe they are all not very good at presenting this. So while you create your team, it's good to like talk with each other and see who is good in what and how can you leverage this for your project.
yeah. And before we go to the next slide, the only thing else I'll say is typically, from what I've seen, the roles are front end developer, back end developer slash smart contract developer, UI UX designer. What else? Those are the typical roles I would say, and then someone who can present, someone who can make the videos, etc. So maybe some other roles that I can't think of off the top of my head. Um, so yeah, let's. I believe our host is trying to solve mic issues, but for now we'll go to the next slide. So yeah, the next thing we'll talk about is choosing bounties, right? Well, yeah, you want to make sure you want to get an idea of all the bounties that there is, right? Based on your project, right? You want to figure out which bounties, right, complement what you want to build. Um, the other thing is you want to try to aim for the bounties, if possible. You want to try to aim for the bounties that not everybody else is striving to claim, because that will increase your chances of getting the bounty. I know for the hackathon that I did, we had, my team, we aimed for a bounty that not everybody else was, striving to get, and that increased our chances of receiving the bounty. And I know like there's a bounty for Polygon, right? And the only requirements for to receive uh that bounty was to deploy on Polygon, but I mean anybody can do that, right? So it's much harder, much harder to receive that bounty. And yeah, if it's possible, you try to aim for multiple bounties. Is there anything you want to say about this?
I don't think so. um,
Oh,
you explained as well.
okay, okay. We We have so many more slides, but we're gonna try to speed this up a bit. Um, yeah, so yeah, we're just gonna try to skim through the slides a bit more now. So yeah, I think we mentioned this before. You know, you want to pace yourself. Hackathons are very intense, right? So you want to take breaks, right? Make sure you're getting enough food and water in your body. Um, Make sure you're balancing, right, what you're working on, and focus on your role and your responsibilities. Don't try to take over. If you have a team, don't try to take over other people's roles and responsibilities. You know, you have to trust in the fact that people on your team will get the job done. Sometimes, if you have bad teammates, that is unfortunate, but try to prioritize on your role as much as possible. Prioritize on what needs to get done, right? Um, so you want to prioritize on the main functionality of your project, right? And if there's more time over, right, for the hackathon, then you can build the other things, right? Maybe such as making the UI more beautiful, right? Or maybe you adding multiple languages to a website or something, right? These things aren't a priority, right? You want to, so yeah, make sure you are focusing on the main thing of your project. What's next? GitHub Essentials, right? So make sure you have a good README file that has a very good description of your project, right? Make sure your GitHub is organized, right? So that'll be much easier for judges to depict your code if there are technical judges. Um, Make sure you communicate on, when people push to GitHub, you don't want it where, you push something to your branch and everything that you worked on is just all going right. And this is why we also advocate making different branches and only pushing to the main branch when necessary, right? Because, yeah, things can get very complicated. So make sure you are seriously communicating uh, code changes to the code base. Because things can get very messy. You can really screw up your project if you do not communicate about this. So very important. Yeah. So presentation, dedicate. You want to, I would say the last maybe maybe 2 3 days, you want to start thinking about coming up with that video, coming up with a diagram or slides, right? Especially if you have bad connection issues or anything like that, you need to upload a video and all that, right? You want to be well prepared for this because what I've seen before is that people they'll have everything set up, they'll have their project, everything, and they'll wait at the very last minute to upload their video, and because they didn't upload that video because they were just 1 minute late, their submission for the hackathon wasn't complete. So it's very important that you set aside time to upload that video on that submission page, right? And make sure your video is only at most 5 minutes, right? Don't make it too long because you gotta understand judges are looking at other projects, right? So don't make it too long. Yeah, make sure you include a demo, right, where judges can interact with your project. Some cases it will be different, right, depending on what the project is. But if possible, try to create a demo out of it. So yeah, there's that. What else? Team essentials. So I would say you want to try to communicate as much as possible. If possible, get on, voice calls as much as you can, whether that's Telegram, whether that's Discord. I don't know, maybe somehow have these people's phone numbers. I don't know, which isn't the case most of the time. But try to communicate as much as you can, so that things don't get misconstrued. Communication is very important. You bonding with your teammates is very important. That creates trust, right? So yeah, please make sure you do this throughout the hackathon, so that everybody is on the same page. You know. So that's important. All right, so we have additional tips, and I'll say these tips are um, based on specifically based on our hackathon. So yeah, additional tips. Oh well, this tip specifically is for any hackathon, but can be for any hackathon. But please be aware of cheating. Please, if possible, um, point out anybody that may be cheating. Point out anybody that may have done a past project in the past. I've seen it a lot of times. People like even copying resumes, things like that. They'll what I've seen people do is that they'll use a hackathon project, right? They'll use a one hackathon project that was made months ago, a year ago, and they'll use that same exact project on a recent an ongoing hackathon, and they'll win, right? But they themselves didn't build that project, right? And that is extremely unfair to those who put sweat and tears into building a project. That's not right, right? So if possible, right, and this is very dishonest. So if you are able to find people who are cheating, who are using past projects, who are you know building a project that isn't theirs, please let us know so that we can disqualify them, right? And also too, I mean, why would you cheat? That's ruining your reputation, right? Whether that's enter another hackathon, whether that's applying for another job, doing a freelance gig, it's just not worth it. So yeah, please be aware of anybody that cheats, and please let us know. So, and sounds like somebody has their mic unmuted, but so for our gig, oh sorry, not gig, for our hackathon specifically, right? Um, for those who register early, we gave out ChatGPT credits. Well, I'm not sure if we've given them out yet, but those who register early, they will be receiving ChatGPT credits for the hackathon. And yeah, try to use these free credits to the best of your ability. Maybe you can use ChatGPT to generate ideas and help you brainstorm. And basically, ChatGPT use it as a assistant when it comes to coming up with ideas, right? You can also use ChatGPT if you're building something and you run into these weird errors, right? And yeah, use ChatGPT to help be as your debugging buddy. Me personally, I think ChatGPT can be really good when it comes to dealing with small bugs. When it comes to the bigger bugs, I wouldn't try to utilize ChatGPT too much. But when it comes to the smaller issues, I think ChatGPT is very good in depicting that. And yeah, also ChatGPT can help with documentation and coming up with really good presentations. So yeah, try to use ChatGPT credits to the best of your ability. Next, uh, I'll be honest, this is a bit hard for me to explain, but um, you know, the theme of our hackathon is AI and blockchain, right? And try to we encourage you to try to come up with creative ways where AI can interact with your project, right? And typically your project will be blockchain based, right? And somehow you can add AI into your smart contract development. I know I seen somewhere where it was saying, maybe you can make AI algorithms into your smart contract. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how you would do that, but that's a very interesting idea. You can use AI in some shape or form, maybe use AI to automate your code or your task, right? Maybe AI can somehow interact with the bounties, the technology of the bounties you'll be using. All right, so maybe try to come up with that. And I've seen somewhere where you can use AI to help track blockchain activity. Maybe you build a project that does something similar. That would be really cool, right? So yeah, try to come up with, if possible, we encourage you to try to come up with creative ways to yeah, for AI to interact with your project in any type of way, you know. And that also contributes to you using your chat GBT credits. And let's see. And yeah, yeah, we wanted to try to speed things up because we seen that we were on, you know, talking about one particular slide for a long time, but now we're at the questions. All right, so if you have any questions, yeah, we'll here to answer your questions. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. All right, so what else? Sorry, let me turn this off. Okay. What else counts as cheating other than using past projects? Um, Off the top of my head, I would say make sure. I guess we could have included this in the slide, but you want to make sure that. So, like you can hope maybe you can throw in the chat what the exact deadline is, right? But what I would say is you want to make sure that because you'll be submitting your project onto GitHub, right? So you want to make sure that last git commit is not after the hackathon deadline. And if that last git commit is after the hackathon deadline, maybe there are exceptions, right? Maybe through those exceptions you can speak to us so that we can understand your circumstances. But ideally, if that last git commit that you submit, if that GitHub you submit has the last git commit where it's after the hackathon deadline, then yeah, you can potentially be disqualified. That can be considered cheating because you're still pushing codes to the GitHub even after the deadline. So I'll say that'll be the other thing that can act as cheating. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So they just showed the deadline here. So yeah. For instance, if that last git commit is on April 6th, right, you can potentially be disqualified. So yeah, be sure of that. Be sure of that. Sound like a attack finding legal loopholes. That's hilarious. Um, that's funny. uh, let's see. It is in the chain save part. Oh, okay. You just answer a question. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't looks like I don't see any other questions. Yeah, so maybe CJ has something to say. Soleil has something to say. She'll say in the chat because due to unfortunate audio issues.
Yeah. So I think we've covered pretty much like the most important things that you should consider before participating to a hackathon. It's good that you ask some extra questions about things that you are unsure. Remember, whenever you are in doubt, you are not sure about how certain rules apply to the hackathon, you can come in Discord. Ask for help. There will be always someone who will be able to assist you and to try to reply to your queries. We will also have people who are going to be mentoring during the hackathon. So any technical questions as well. There is going to be folks that are going to be there to help you out with your issues or questions. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We all don't know certain things. Just come and ask, and somebody will be happy to help.
Yep, I agree. Like CJ said, yeah, we'll be assisting you in the Discord throughout the hackathon. And I know last hackathon we, had it where we had TA office hours, or hackathon. We'll call it hackathon office hours. We had hackathon office hours every day. We'll uh we'll have to figure out if that's something that we'll be doing again. Uh, this hackathon. That way, we just have it where we have the voice chat open and people can pop in and ask questions. Uh, yeah, and yeah, that basically concludes our workshop. We've been here for about 50 minutes, basically an hour, and yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot here. Try to give out as many hackathon tips as possible to encourage you to do your best. And yeah, I believe there are more workshops happening in the future. We encourage you to attend those. And yeah, if you have any more questions, yeah, check out our Twitter to be up to date on things. And if you have any more questions, queries, concerns, anything like that, you can always talk to us through our hackathon channels. And yeah, guys, good luck, find some teammates, and yeah, have a nice day.
Happy building, everyone. Can't wait to see your projects.